sensitiveness of demand to change in the price. So the every commodity is means is not having a same type of the elasticity. Example, suppose if we'll say salt and orange. So how much the demand for salt, it will be affected by the increase in the price of the salt. This may not happen in the context of the orange. Example, if the salt price will increase or decline, your quantity demand will not much affected. Okay, if the salt price, it will reduce by 50%, so you will not demand more salt. Okay, but if orange price will reduce by 50%, your the quantity demand, this might be high. So in this case, we can say the elasticity or responsiveness of demand to change in the price, it is different. So it is helpful in the government the policy making. Okay, so how it will be helpful, we can discuss now. So what the price, what the elasticity of demand actually saying. So if the price will increase by 10%, we know that the demand will uh, fall. But how much it will fall? Whether it will be reduced by 10% or means less than 10% or more than 10%, that can be measured by the elasticity of demand. Then how to measure the elasticity? So in order to measure the elasticity of demand, there are three types of the elasticity measurement. One is price elasticity of demand, where we are measuring the elasticity of demand with respect to change in the price. So how much the quantity demand, it will be changing with respect to change in the uh, price, that can be measured by using the price elasticity. Income elasticity of demand we are using in order to measure the extent of change in the demand due to the change in the income. And in the cross elasticity of demand, we are measuring the elasticity in the context of related goods like the substitute goods and the complementary goods. First, we'll discuss about the uh, price elasticity. Price elasticity of demand means the response of quantity demand to change in the price. So, which is explained by price elasticity of demand equal to percentage change in the quantity demand by percentage change in the price. Example, suppose the gas price increases by 50%, but quantity demand reduced by 25%. Then how much will be the price elasticity? Here, percentage change in the quantity demand is 25%. So as the demand is reduced, so it will be minus 25%, and percentage change in the price, it will be 50%. So the elasticity of demand, it will be minus 0.5%. Or you can uh, say that if the price will increase by 1%, quantity demand, it will reduce by 0.5% and vice versa. Or with, if we are comparing with 100%, then you can say if price will be increasing by 100%, quantity demand, it will be reduced by 50% and vice versa. So it is the calculation of the price elasticity. So what are the degrees of the price elasticity? There can be different degrees of the price elasticity of demand, like perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand means for a small change in the price, there will be infinity change in the quantity demand. In this case, the elasticity value it will be infinity. So in order to understand this one, if we'll understand the perfectly inelastic demand, it will be easy to understand the uh, perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly inelastic demand means when responsiveness of quantity demand to change in the price is zero. Whether the price is increasing or declining, when the quantity demand does not change, it is called perfectly inelastic demand. In this case, elasticity value it will be equal to zero. So anybody can give any example of the perfectly inelastic demand? Any example? Sorry?
So what is the question?
Any example of the perfectly inelastic demand? Perfectly inelastic means what? When demand is not changing with change in the price. Suppose the price is increasing, but your the quantity demand is not affected. You are demanding the same amount. Is there any example?
So electricity,
Electricity. Yeah. So
gas and water supply, so food
gas
supply.
and water supply.
So coffee and tea.
Fuel.
Tea and coffee, how it will be? So if the price of the tea will increase, you will mean not consume it, or are you mean going to consume the same amount?
That
So
means
so here you see the demand curve is vertical line. This means that quantity demand is same. That is means 150 units. Even if the price is increasing, whether it is $5, $10, $15, but your demand is not changing. This will happen. So as you said, in the context of most necessity commodities, where you cannot reduce your demand even if the price is increasing. So the close example can be the petrol price, water supply also, because it is most important for us and means most necessity. So when, and another thing is that it should not have any substitute, or the close substitute it should not have. Otherwise, when the price will increase, we will just move to the substitute goods. So, example, the petrol. So, even though electric vehicle has come, but it is not uh, close substitute. It is not as efficient like the petrol vehicles. So, even if the petrol price is increasing, we are still purchasing the same amount of petrol. Okay, so here our demand is not responding to change in the price. So we can say it is a perfectly inelastic demand. Although for the petrol price, it is, we cannot say the it is perfectly inelastic, but it is the example like the close. So in the theory, we have perfectly elastic means there is infinity change in the demand for a small change in the price, and the opposite is perfectly inelastic, where for any change in the price there will be no change in the demand. Okay, so these two are the theoretically it is sound good, but means more practical, it will be relatively elastic demand and relatively inelastic demand. Relatively elastic means when for a small change in the price, there will be large change in the quantity demand. So it will be relatively elastic. In this case, the demand curve, it will be little flatter type curve. So the change in the price, it will be less, but the change in the quantity demand, it will be more. So for a reduction or increment in the price, the demand is changing by more. Therefore, the demand curve is relatively flatter, and the elasticity value, it will be greater than 1. So we would to take always the modular value or the mode value of the elasticity. And in the context of relatively inelastic demand, here for a large change in the price, there will be small change in the quantity demand. In this context, the demand curve, it will be relatively steeper, and it is called as relatively inelastic demand. So इसका example, anybody can give the example of relatively inelastic demand. Demand for the salt, whether it is a elastic demand or inelastic demand. Anybody?
Just
Sir,
inelastic.
inelastic.
Inelastic demand. Inelastic, this is because for a large change in the price, your demand might be changing by very small. अगर ये जो सॉल्ट का प्राइस सपोज जो 40 रुपया है, वो 10 रुपया हो जाएगा सपोज, then you may think to buy little means more salt. Now it is very cheaper, so you will eat more, is it? सॉल्ट अभी इतना जो सस्ता हो गया तो मीन्स ज्यादा खा लो.
No, sir.
नो. हाँ. So here in this case, you cannot increase your demand by means much more, even if there is a means large change in the price. So in this case, we can say it is inelastic demand. So the demand curve, it will be mostly a steeper curve. But in the context of relatively elastic demand, like demand for the gold, गोल्ड का प्राइस सपोज 5% 10% भी रिड्यूस हो जाएगा, योर डिमांड में इंक्रीज बाय मीन्स मोर देन दैट 50% भी डिमांड भी मीन्स इंक्रीज हो सकता है. ओके, सो इन दिस केस वी कैन से इट इज रिलेटिवली इलास्टिक डिमांड. Then the unitary elasticity means the percentage change in the price equal to percentage change in the quantity demand. प्राइस जितना परसेंट चेंज होगा, डिमांड भी उतना ही परसेंट चेंज होगा. Then it is called unitary elasticity, and in this case elasticity value, it will be equal to 1. Then there are 4 methods of elasticity. One is percentage method, second geometric method, arc method, and total outlay method. So the percentage method, already I said, according to the percentage method, elasticity value equal to negative value of percentage change in the quantity demand by percentage change in the price. So you just remember that the price elasticity of demand, it will always be negative, because there is an inverse relationship between price and the quantity demand. So when price will increase, demand will reduce, and vice versa. So here, every time either the denominator or the numerator value, it will be a negative value. Okay, so when at least means one value it will be negative, so the whole ratio it will be negative. So the price elasticity it will always be negative. So as we have to compare this value with one in order to know the degree of elasticity, so we have to take the mode value always, mode value of the elasticity to compare with one. And by simplifying this formula, it will be delta q by delta p into p by q, where delta q is change in the quantity demand, delta p is change in the price, p is original price, q is the original quantity. Then the example is, suppose the price of commodity x falls from 5 rupees to 3 rupees, and its quantity demand increase from 10 kg to 30 kg. Here you see, so when means one variable is increasing, other variable is declining. So here it will be negative value, the elasticity. Okay, then how much will be the elasticity value? So the elasticity value it will be delta q by delta p into p by q. So delta q is change in the quantity demand, delta p is change in the price, and p is original price, q is original quantity. Then the price elasticity it will be minus 5, and mode value of the minus 5 is greater than 1. We can say this is relatively elastic demand. And how to interpret this result? We can interpret this as, if the price will reduce by 1%, quantity demand will increase by 5%, and vice versa. Okay, so here it will be the interpretation for this example. Then geometric mean, or then the geometric method, or the point method. According to geometric method, we can calculate the elasticity value at any point along the demand curve by applying the formula, that is the elasticity value equal to lower segment of the demand curve divided by the upper segment of the demand curve. Then here, suppose we are assuming the demand curve is linear or just straight line, then at the middle point, that is n point, the lower segment by upper segment it will be equal to 1, because the lower segment equal to upper segment, and any point higher than the middle point, that is m, lower segment will be higher than the upper segment, so the elasticity value it will be greater than 1. And any point lower to the middle point, that is at point p, the lower segment it will be less, and upper segment it will be more, so the elasticity value it will be less than 1. And at x-axis the elasticity value it will be 0, and y-axis the elasticity value it will be infinity. So by applying this simple formula, so you can calculate the point elasticity at any point along the demand curve by applying the lower segment of the demand curve divided by the upper segment of the demand curve. This is the formula to calculate the elasticity value along the demand curve. Then we have the arc method. According to arc method, the elasticity is calculated as the average responsiveness to the change in the price. Actually, the demand curve, it is not the linear curve. Okay, the linear means the straight line where the slope of the curve it will be same, but the demand curve it is not linear in the practical way. How to understand? Suppose if we'll say the non-linear the relationship like the price of the petrol and the bus fare. Are you means listening? It is important to understand how to understand the non-linear relationship. Suppose if I will say if the petrol price will increase, a bus fare will increase or not? Am I audible?
Yes.
If the petrol price will increase, the bus fare will also increase. But if the
Yes.
petrol price will reduce, whether the bus fare will reduce, may not be. Is not it?
Yes.
So in this case, you can say that for increase in the petrol price, how much the bus fare is increasing, for reduction in the petrol price, that much bus fare is not reducing. Even if it will reduce, but it will means not be exactly same amount. क्योंकि जो पेट्रोल प्राइस इंक्रीज होने से तो जो बस का जो ये है जो लोग है, ठीक है, उनका वो क्या करेंगे, उनका जो कम्युनिटी है वो इंक्रीज कर देंगे जो बस फेयर. बट व्हेन द petrol price will reduce, they may not reduce the bus fare accordingly. अगर वो reduce करेंगे भी बहुत जो कम ही reduce करेंगे. So here for increase in the price and reduction in the price, the impact is not equal. So when the impact is not equal, you can say the slope of that curve cannot be constant between 2 points. Okay, so in this case you cannot say that it will be a straight line or linear. Similarly, the demand curve, it is also not a linear curve, because for reduction in the price, how much the consumers demand, it will be affected. For increase in the price, that much demand, it might not be affected. In this case, if you are calculating the elasticity, so you will find the elasticity value to be different by applying the original price elasticity formula, that is percentage change in the quantity demand by percentage change in the price. Suppose initially our price was 8 rupees, accordingly the quantity demand was 10 kg. So if for reduction in the price, if you are calculating the elasticity, then it will be minus 0.8. So it will be the elasticity value, or minus 4 by 5. But for increase in the price, suppose assuming initially the price was 6 rupees and it increased to 8 rupees, as a result of which quantity demand reduced from 10 kg to 12 kg to 10 kg, then in this case, if you are calculating the price elasticity, it will be minus 0.5. So in this case, you see the elasticity value is different. This means for reduction in the price, quantity demand is being affected by 0.8%. For 1% increase in the price, the quantity demand is reduced by 0.8%. But for 1% reduction in the price, the quantity demand is increased by 0.5%. Or you can say the responsiveness of quantity demand to increase in the price and to reduction in the price, it is different. So the elasticity value, it will be different. In order to equalize this value, we are calculating the average elasticity at the midpoint along the arc. Okay, so here it is called arc elasticity or the midpoint method. So according to the midpoint method, the elasticity value can be calculated as delta Q by Q1 plus Q2 by 2 divided by delta P by P1 plus P2 by 2. So here if we will apply uh, uh, this arc method or the midpoint method and to calculate the elasticity value, it will be equal for increase in the price and reduction in the price, because here we are calculating the average elasticity, not the actual value. Okay, so this you need to uh, solve one problem, then only you can be clear. It is easy, but you need to solve. Then the total outlay method or total revenue method, which explain the relationship between elasticity and the revenue. Total revenue equal to price into uh, quantities. So revenue means the income of the seller. So how to calculate the seller's income? Income of the seller or the entrepreneur, that can be calculated as price of the product into the units of output sold. Suppose the price of the product is 10 rupees and the seller is able to sell uh, 10 units, then his total revenue will be equal to 10 into 10 will be equal to 100, and the marginal revenue will be equal to change in the total revenue divided by change in the units of output. Okay, then the how the elasticity and the revenue are related. So here, if it is elastic demand means what? The price elastic, or if we'll say elastic demand means the response of demand to change in the price, it will be more. That means the demand curve, it will be relatively flatter. So in this case, for a small change in the price, there will be the large change in the quantity demand. Suppose this is the quantity, this is the price. In this case, if the seller will increase the price when it is elastic demand, what will happen to the total revenue? Total revenue, as we know, this is equal to P into Q. If P will increase for a small amount, in this case, Q will reduce by a large amount. What will happen to the revenue? P into Q? Anybody? So if it is elastic demand, that means for a small change in the price, the demand will be changing by more amount. So in this case, what will happen to the total revenue of the seller when he will increase the price?
So revenue will fall.
Yes, very good, because for a small increase in the price, there will be large reduction of the quantity demand, as a result of which total revenue will fall, because it is elastic demand. And when it is elastic demand, if the seller will decrease the price, similarly for a small reduction in the price, there will be large increase in the quantity demand. So as a result, total revenue will increase. Okay, because total revenue equal to P into Q. So for a small reduction in the price, if there will be large increase in the quantity demand, so there will be total increase in the revenue. Similarly, the opposite will happen when it is inelastic demand, or the demand curve, it will be relatively steeper. This means for a large change in the price, there will be a small change in the quantity demand. So in this case, So if the seller will increase the price, then he will have a increase in the total revenue, because even if he will increase the price by more amount, his total demand will reduce by less amount. So as a result of which he can make more the profit, so his total revenue will increase. So example is Reliance Jio. Reliance Jio, it is now becoming more branded and means more uh, uh, benefit we are getting out of that, because of which even if Reliance Jio is increasing the price by more, our quantity demand is not being reduced. As a result of which the total revenue as well as the total profit of the Reliance Jio is increasing, because the demand for Reliance Jio is relatively inelastic. So even if its price is increasing, but your demand is not reducing accordingly. So in this case, the for increase in the price, there will be rise in the total revenue, and for reduction in the price, the opposite will happen. So even if the seller will reduce the price by more, he can just increase very less units of the demand. So as a result of which, for reduction in the price, the uh, total revenue will reduce. Okay, understood this? This one is important for your
Yes,
exam.
sir.
Okay, thank you. Then the income elasticity, then the cross elasticity. Only three, four the slides are there. So accordingly, the income elasticity means what? Income elasticity means the impact of change in income upon the change in the demand. If income will increase or reduce, how much the demand it will be changing, that will be measured by the income elasticity. So example here, how to calculate income elasticity. Income elasticity equal to percentage change in the quantity demand by percentage change in the income. So which can be calculated as delta q by delta y into y by the q. So here the example is that if the consumer's income increases from 2000 rupees to 3000, then suppose his demand is increasing from 20 units to 40 units. So here the income elasticity it will be 2%. So, or we can say that if income will increase by 1%, demand will increase by 2%, and vice versa. So here by applying this simple formula, you can easily calculate the income elasticity. Then the cross elasticity of demand, as I said, you can use this formula to calculate the elasticity in the context of related goods like the uh, substitute goods or the complementary goods. So the cross elasticity here is delta qx by delta py into py by qx. That means change in the quantity demand of the commodity X divided by change in the price of the commodity Y into price of commodity Y by quantity demand of commodity X. So here, if two commodities, it will be substitute goods example, then the price of change in the price of one commodity will affect the change in the demand for the other the commodity. Here we are measuring the change in the price of commodity Y upon the change in the quantity demand of commodity X. Either we can use the percentage method, we can use the midpoint method in all the cases. But as I said, midpoint method it is utilized to examine the average elasticity, the value. Okay. So here by calculating the cross elasticity, we can identify whether two commodities are substitute goods or two commodities are the complementary goods or two commodities are the unrelated goods. So if the elasticity the value it will be positive, then we can say two commodities it will be substitute to each other, because in the context of two substitute goods, if the price of one commodity will increase, the demand for the other commodity will also increase and vice versa. The example that is uh, Coke and the Pepsi, as I already said, if price of uh, Coke will increase, you may demand more Pepsi and vice versa, because two commodities are substitute to each other. So when the price of one commodity increases, demand for the other commodity increases and vice versa. In this case, the elasticity value it will be positive value, and by so as the value is positive, so you can say that these two commodities are substitute goods, because both the variables, that is the price of one commodity and the demand for other commodity, both are moving in the same direction, as a result of which the elasticity value will be the positive, and these two commodities it will be substitute to each other. But if the elasticity value will be negative, then you can say two commodities are complementary to each other, because if two commodities it will be complementary, then increase in the price of one commodity it will result in the reduction in the demand for other commodity, and vice versa, as a result of which the elasticity value it will be negative. Example, the petrol price and demand for the car. If petrol it will be going on more and more expensive, then your demand for the car it will reduce, because petrol and the car both are the complementary to each other, because if you have to buy the car, you have to buy petrol, so both are complementary, because of which if the price of one commodity it will increase, the demand for other commodity it will reduce and vice versa, as a result of which the elasticity value it will be negative. Okay, and if
Yes, sir.
the cross elasticity value, thank you, if the cross elasticity value it will be zero, then you can say these two commodities are not related to each other. Suppose you will say the price of aeroplane and price of umbrella. So you can say these two commodities are means not related to each other. Aeroplane का price बढ़ेगा घटेगा, umbrella के साथ क्या इसका लेन देन है. So you can say these two commodities are not related to each other. But if the price elasticity will be positive, or if the cross elasticity, if it will be positive value, you can say two commodities are substitute. If it will be negative value, you can say two commodities are complementary to each other.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then in case of weak substitute, so it will be like more जो steeper curve, demand curve, the close substitute it will be like flatter. Okay, like weak the complement and the strong complement it will be like steeper and the flatter. So here are some of the examples. So I hope you can solve it by applying the above the formulas to calculate the elasticity. So all these are the homework for you. Okay. So the elasticity
Okay,
means
sir.
okay then. So in this elasticity we are basically measuring the degree of responsiveness of quantity demand to change in the price. So with respect to the price, with respect to income, and in the context of related commodities, we learn how to calculate the elasticity. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll just move for the Athena.